I'm Denise Deming, the host of Power Conversations on a Monday and Wednesday from 8 a.m. We spend time digging deeper into issues that are impacting our country. Our guest this morning is Dr. Brian Copeland. What is something you enjoy doing that might surprise people?
So I spend a lot of my time doing it's pro bono consultancy in sound system installation. So actually it's consumed a lot of my time of late. My focus has been Roman Catholic Church. Most recent projects are 3 of the heritage sites in Trinidad and Tobago. So the one in Tortuga, which is a lovely place, you could see everything from Labrie on the left, and you swing around, you get to the docks in Port of Spain, almost the whole western seaboard of Trinidad and Tobago. I've just completed St. Francis at Belmont, which was dormant for 15 years and recently reopened. And currently St. Joseph RC at St. Joseph is going through some refurbishment. I actually have 2 students now that just joined me in engineering, and they're actually looking at the sound systems at UWI just to see if we can update it.
And why our sound systems just seem to focus on volume.
Most times people don't pay attention to sound in terms of the very, very fine detail. So in the church setting, the key there is in speech intelligibility. You can get the music and everything. And to get that, it's extremely important because the human brain works in a very strange way when sound comes in. It's designed to understand speech. If it's not done right, and you allow the building to dominate, so you get a lot of reverberation and echoes and so on, I call it overhang, especially on the low end. What happens afterwards is the brain gets tired of trying to figure out what is being said. So you actually get mental fatigue without even knowing it. And that affects intelligibility. Sometimes the equipment is old as well. And you can put in any decent equipment in it. The key to it is putting the speakers in the right place. So we actually do simulation. You want a good job done, you have to draw the space out, computer drawings that is. You don't have to be super detailed, but you need to know everything about the height, the width, the breadth, what materials are being used, where people seated and so on. And that the simulation tool will actually help to show you where are the areas you will get extremely good intelligibility and where you will not. Key thing is intelligibility, and there are measures for intelligibility that need to be used. So the whole thing about going down by the nearby store to buy a speaker and you stick it in the space and you put some microphones on, you'll get sound. But if you really want to capture the audience, right, or the congregation, as the case may be, you have to do the design just right. I've seen too many cases where we failed in that regard.
Yeah. I'm amazed by what you're talking about because, especially coming up Carnival, what I just hear is the volume. What you have just described is an approach to it that ensures that the audience actually listens.
You can't go in a fed scenario and not expect it to be loud. So what I normally do, in my days when I used to go, is find the quieter spots. I'm not going to go where the bass is country, and so I'll go there because I enjoy a nice deep bass as well. But I don't want it damaging my body and my hearing at the same time. So I tend to find the spots that are not too loud. There are some states in the states that are insisting that DJs use a particular speaker layout that focuses the sound inside the space so it doesn't affect the neighbors. And I could tell you, the Brian Lara Promenade is actually about 1.5 miles from me, but I know when there's a fete going on there. I've had wares rattle and so on, and it's 1.5 miles away. And I couldn't imagine what's happening to the people inside of the space. But after a while, either they get more deaf or they just get used to it and it lives on.
Recently, I was in Chaguaramas. I could hear that DJ that was 1 mile away. Chaguaramas is still a very beautiful place, still has a lot of nature. And the little monkeys, I don't know how they would respond to that sound.
Yeah, it disturbs the environment. And it's almost a weapon. You know, people use sound as a weapon. You could, through the right frequency and the right intensity, you could break glass, but do more. You can actually disturb the human being as well in ways that you can't even fathom, right? But so there needs to become some sort of licensing. And I think the laws with respect to OSH, really the implementation with respect to the limits that OSH imposes needs to be a little bit more strict. Luckily, the specs actually allow for time and intensity. I think it's like the terminology, but 95 dB, that's how we measure the loudness. over 2 hours. When you get up to the hundreds, which is where these guys with the sound system and their cars, they have their sound off and their competition, they're to 125, which is actually the threshold of pain. That is where that is. But they want to see who could play the loudest. The trucks on Carnival Day, they try to project, so they go very loud, very inefficient design, but it also stirs up competition. So would you believe a couple of the top companies in the world have come down to see how we use systems on the trucks for Carnival? And then go back up, yes, and modify their designs because it's hot temperature, right? It's very humid and it's going all day, right? Especially the speakers and amplifiers. The other parts are not power hungry, but those which carry enough power to light up a small village on the truck, right? Those systems, I've seen JBL, which is a big manufacturer out there down here, and I think Bose paid a couple of visits in the past. I stand to be corrected on that one. But they have come down to look at how the systems are being used.
This is absolutely amazing. I really appreciate this conversation because I have this issue with sound. And what you're saying is that there is the technology behind it and there are ways we can do it so that it becomes a little more acceptable. What's your current position?
Post-retirement, I'm now chairman at COSTAATT, College of Science and Technology Applied Arts, Trinidad and Tobago. I'm also chairman at CCLCS, which is Cipriani College of Labor and Cooperative Studies. Interesting interplay between these two, but CCLCS is focused a lot on social justice. COSTAATT, some people call it a second chance institution. So it really started off focus on those who didn't really make the grade first time around. It's given me a chance to continue to make a contribution to the education sector in Trinidad and Tobago, especially at the tertiary level.
What is your vision for COSTAATT's future?
Okay, let me just preface what I'm going to say by responding along the line that our education system really needs to be flipped upside down, because I don't think it is really aligned as fully as it should be to where the nation needs to go. There's the vision document from government. There have been documents put out by the ministry and so on. But I think in terms of having a national agreement, in terms of where we need to go and what the education system is for, we fall short. So I don't want to answer that and leave that cloud hanging there. Now, there's an approach that I had started to develop while I was a principal at UE over the last year and a half, 2 years of my tenure. After COVID, that is when the light came on as to what we should really be doing. And if I were to summarize it in one word, it's just survival, preparing your citizens for survival. And survival at different levels. If it is that Mother Nature just takes a big swat at you and mash up the place and then they say lick up the place and you're in devastation, those who survive need to be able to know how to continue surviving. Now, if they can't, your education system has failed. You see what's happening with climate change. You've seen, for example, I think 4 years ago, one of the islands was Zimbabwe. Totally, the population had to move out. It was totally flooded over after the hurricane passed. If you survive the hurricane, the earthquake, the volcano explosion, or even man-made disasters, it could be a riot or whatever, if you survive but you're left on your own, you need to know how to continue surviving, especially if you have family. You have to get back to where your parents were many years ago, right? They knew how to, this grass do this, that tree do that, this leaf do that, how to get meat and whatnot and so on. But now you have more knowledge because you know what nutrition you need. In it is also the whole issue of your health. So that's one level. And then you have the other level, which is what we engage in all the time, which is survival in the world of work, how you navigate that space, while at the same time making a contribution to national sustenance, growth, and development. And then finally, there's the world of the future, the world of work of the future. You have to survive in that space. And that future changing very rapidly, especially with AI and all this new technology. And I personally have a big fear of AI, right? So you have to be able to navigate that space, and you may have no choice but to play in that space. The sum total of that must result in a nation that is economically sound. We've always been shaky, relying just on oil and gas. And for years, many of us have been saying economy needs to be opened up. It's a two-way street. It's government, but as well as individuals. So you get more people involved in the foreign exchange earning activity in the country by way of the work that they do, and by way of that work being competitive in the international space. So we need to operate on that front. There is a German model and a Costa Rican model that's similar, where the economy has been, Vice Chancellor, we use the word democratized. a large number of people taking part in it, engaged in foreign trade. In German, they have a name for it, they call it the Mittelstand, right? And that kind of grew amorphously. It's family companies that grew and grew and they develop, and they support the big companies, but they also export on their own. And the education system has actually evolved to support that sector, which is quite interesting. Costa Rica also have a democratized system right next door. Costa Rica is doing very well. Interesting country. No army, by the way, since after World War II. No army. And look where they are. The economy is relatively sound because they just have a business mindset when it comes to the company. So COSTAATT needs to be a major player, a major supporter in that future economy. It has to be a major. It has to prepare people for that. It may have to adjust what it's doing along the way, but in terms of especially looking at its original mandate, catching those who really fell afoul of the core system, because there are always people who do. If you look at the performance at the college and so on, you'll see that a lot of people just, all they need is that second chance. And they fly. And so we are there to give them that support. But in doing it, going forward, we have to be the ones making that contribution. And it means doing something more than just educating. We need to also engage the population on things like on matters such as this. And the last one, I think, was on recidivism, on social justice, that's criminal justice. So those kind of discussions, because the whole societal framework has to come together. There's nothing that must not be untouched in building the framework for that ideal target nation.
What's the data we have to help you to make those decisions?
The simple answer is not really. If I were to ask the question, how many people are needed in X field in 5 years? It's not immediately available. You have to go probing around and trying to extrapolate. So we do a lot of that. We do a lot of networking. The most recent one I know of is in the health area, nursing, and so on. And so we've identified some needs there. In fact, we just approved a couple of courses to focus on that particular, and that's based on feedback we got from them. So you can do it that way. At the top level, if you look at the CSO output, the Central Statistical Office, and I was pleased to see that the central bank actually has reported trend has actually increased. Economic activity has increased in all of those areas. But if you look at the trends, you'll see the areas that there are years when the economic activity in a particular area dropped. All right. And so you can look at those and look at where that trend is carrying you to tell you whether an area is in need of, perhaps maybe in need of support to help you identify which programs are needed. It's more difficult when you have to project new areas. And if you look at what the government has been saying and the general population be saying, of course, everybody's focused on IT. And so when you look at it, it means you have to have more software developments, more web developers. You have to be very quick, agile, and you have to be flexible in order to meet those needs.
But you're saying that the data really is the, and are doing the research in order to get the data to figure out what exactly are you all going to be delivering.
Yeah, but I think we do very well by having the on the ground interaction. As the best example I saw was that nursing case. I think we launched something like 3 programs. One of the concerns I had was, so they need X people. All right, it's going to take you like a year, 2 years to get them out there. What happens after that? It's going to be full. And I answered myself by saying, there's some people who take courses because they're just interested and they're waiting for the opportunity. So we are there to provide for them. And then the next question will be, okay, what if the actual need changes? What are the provisions for these people? They say they need them, but what are the provisions in terms of hiring them? Education is more than just the discipline you work in. It's that whole discipline itself of getting involved in education is a whole learning experience. And so engaging people, you're actually developing them. One of the things COSTAATT is looking at, is there space for you internationally? I'm looking at the international markets and where they are going. Caribbean first.
Additionally, our nurses have been trained and they've gone abroad.
In Jamaica, they have a standing joke. They says you hand them the degree, they head straight to the embassy. In the early days, under Lee Kuan Yew, sent their students out and say, just as we tried to do, but it didn't work too well for us. So you're coming back here to work for 5 years. They planned how things would evolve, which is coming back to us and the education system. They planned it enough to say we need this person, that kind of sector. So they had the emphasis on particular areas. We have it, but it's not, in my view, it's not as meticulously policed as Singapore did. They were behind us in the 60s. Lee Kuan Yew came and decided he didn't want to do what we're doing. When a couple of men passed in front of him, he said, I ain't going that way. And he went back and he created basically a draconian state, but it was the best example of a good dictator. This was an example as to how they treated their space. But the end result, it is us managing system. The system was not designed for us. It was designed to put clerks behind a desk in the English system. That's what it was for. We know driving the bus of Trinidad, and we have to see this as a major engine. And there are all kinds of things that are involved in terms of developing the space as we go along. Just as I felt for UWI, I told them that more than once. I feel the same for the whole country, is that you should shut the whole thing down and start back and put in and design in it those things that you need. If you go along just putting plasters on source, it's going to be a mess, which is, we reinvented the system to a certain extent, but I do think it's, in my views, it's not enough. It's starting to be corrected, but I do think I need to be. COSTAATT is doing well because I think under the current CEO, it has started to do some soul searching.
You just talked about shutting down the country and starting over. And that is an excellent thought. But the implementation of that, what would it require?
It requires a lot of determination and discussion. And then you just have to have the muscle to make it through once you decide that is what you want to do. That being said, it is an idea that many people say, oh, you are the idealist. I say, yeah. But you know something? If somebody doesn't describe what the ideal is, you're not sure, you will never be sure about how far you're falling short. You need an absolute reference. So even if it's not possible, for whatever reason, you may not have enough energy to do it, and all that sort of stuff, at least you would have described what it entails, right? In terms of the character of it, what it brings and so on. Yeah. Often I would say right now, it's not possible. If you start on that road, you're talking about a 5 to 10 year journey. Easy. Because you're talking about changing mindsets, of changing culture, not just of those in the education system, but you're changing the mindset of citizens as well. What do they expect of the system? What is it for? You see it? So, and changing our cultural mindset, it takes a long time to do that. Yeah. So you need the power of Lee Kuan Yew to get there.
This is the second time you're talking about Lee Kuan Yew and Singapore. Yeah. And you are quite right in terms of the power and that objective and that vision. Yeah. And what I would love to see in our country is that vision articulated, because we may not be able to shut it down, but if we know where we want to go, then a lot more people can become involved in the transformation that is required.
Yeah, I just need a small enough group to start acting on this. And the thing about Trinidad, you can say what you want. Once people see that you're successful in something, all man come in. You just need to start small seed as well. Doesn't be the explosive way I described. That's just my wishful thinking. But you can start with the seed and then just give it all the nutrients needed for it to grow and grow and find a way to blossom.
I just want to switch the conversation from academics to creative work. Yeah. How would you explain Gpan to young people?
So I have a patent for the Gpan. I have a patent for something called the percussive harmonic instrument, which is the Phi. Mm-hmm. That's an electronic version of the traditional pan. The Gpan is a re-engineered form of the traditional instrument. So basically the traditional instrument grew, I'm using the word again, amorphously. So somebody tinkered here, they say, oh, I can get sound from this, and they developed on it. Different people played in it. Till now, we still argue about who created the pan. Ellie Manette had said, who cares? That's yeah, she said that, basically. And it grew, and they happened on some technology. A lot of people do appreciate this. Technology that was novel. Were we a mature enough society at the time, we would have patented it, right? That's the pan, right? There's some serious technology in there. It looks simple, looks trivial, it's noisy to make it. It's noisy sometimes to play, depending on how you play it. But it has wrapped in it some tremendous technology. So much so that I mentioned this before. There was a NASA scientist involved in metallurgy, and when he saw the instrument, he was blown away because his work was very similar to what the pan is. His work was looking at the impact of debris in space on the shuttle fuselage. He was looking at that. How does it impact, and then how could he strengthen the fuselage? And because in a way, the pan, the way you shape the notes to get different tones, it talks about putting the metal in a place where it does what you want it to do, which is what he wanted to do with the aircraft fuselage. So he did some excellent research on the pan. Yes, this is New Mexico. And he also formed his own band. So it is a powerful device. But the thing is that it grew amorphously. So we still don't fully understand how it works. So the Gpan is an attempt to harness what we know into saying, okay, if I were to design this from scratch, what would I do? And a couple of things that we did was, first of all, we use certified metals on the playing surface. Certified meaning we know very well what the composition of the material is. So it's so much steel, so much manganese, so much carbon, and so on. I think 0.04% carbon. We had all those specs knocked down because we had already tested it. Those results are out there in papers to say which ones work best for the instrument. All right? So that's just the top. Then on the sides now, the part that most people don't pay attention to is the rim, where the top of the pan meets the side. Yeah, that's very important because when you hit this, the whole thing, it does a very complex dance. Right? The notes vibrate, yes, but the whole thing vibrates as well. Some of the vibrations you wouldn't want to hear it. It's horrible. And happily, the tuners have smothered it. What we did was we strengthened the rim to ensure that the rest of the pan doesn't affect the music generating aspects of it. That's the skirt. So there's a compound design that's in the patent, but we never got there, right? We just did the regular pan and improved it. If you were to look at the bases, which many says is the most thunderous base you can get, the NSSO has them. They're big. We went big for a reason. Right? It was more strategy than anything else. To turn it upside down, we use braces underneath, and that is to stop the skirt from, I call it vamping, from vibrating too much. It actually throbs when you hit it, and that affects the sound and how it's projected. So we were able to get that bass from the size and by controlling those vibrations. We actually use damping materials. So there's my DJing and music stuff coming in because that's what you do in a speaker box, right? You got to control it. If a speaker is working and the size vibrates too much, your speaker is not going to last very long, all right? And so you have to control it, stop the size from vibrating so that only the speaker pushes the air that generates the sound. And that's what we wanted with the instrument, yeah? So that is the Gpan, more or less. A couple of other things as well, but we were looking at everything that makes the pan work and improve upon it. The intention was also to have it as a premier instrument in building a new steel pan industry. And I have to say I'm a bit disappointed that really didn't happen. There are some Gpans we made that were very much in demand by tuners because of the material. It was holding the tune, as they say, very long, for quite a long period of time. And because we played with the size a little bit, the tuners were saying they're so happy because now they can get to do things they can't do with the regular drums. Those regular drums, some of them they call poison drums because when they burn it, of course, all the stuff that was inside, you're smelling that, right? So it's going into your lungs. These are pans are made from zero, from scratch, everything, raw steel that goes into it. The Phi is a complete different thing. It's pure electronics. So it just looks like a pan, but the beauty of it is that we stuck with the tenor pan design, is that it's a familiar design. What people don't know is that the note layout on the tenor pan actually is a pattern that has been known in the music industry for 400 years. It's called the circle of fifths, right? Now, Tony Williams is the first person to put that on an instrument. And he didn't realize that the pattern existed before. He actually created the pattern from scratch. Tells you about the brilliance of the man, right? So anybody in the world who knows music, you tell them that's the circle of fifths, they can play the instrument in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So we use that on the Phi, put the circle of fifths on it, and basically after that is just electronics, right? And that electronic prototype was designed here, and we did the actual prototype and so on right here in this country. We use all the technology we were learning in class, and so we hit the note, and it sends out the sound, right? Using a whole chain of activities, it sends out that sound for you. And guess what? You could change the sound. So on the same instrument, I could play a tenor. Then I press a button, I'm playing a mid-pan. I press a button, I'm playing a thunderous bass, right? Press a button, I'm playing piano. Press a button, I'm playing sitar, right? any instrument you can think of, or you want to make up your own instrument, go right ahead. There's tools for doing that, and it will play for you.
Yeah.
You want to put your voice on it? No problem. You could do that too. All right. Hit the note, it plays your voice, because it's exactly what a keyboard is, but it's just that the interface is different.
Yeah.
Made in Trinidad and Tobago.
Having said all of that, if a miracle occurred and you could determine the future of our steel band industry, what would that look like?
We are the creators of this instrument. Collectively, I know people argue about, it should be on the coat of arms and all that kind of stuff, and whatnot and so on. That's not us. I say, no, it is you. It's us. Because that technology did not exist before, right? It might have been born in Laventille, but it was nurtured by Trinidad and Tobago, right? It is an opportunity for business. So we need to dominate and control that business. That was the intention of the Gpan in the first instance. Dominate the business. Anybody who wants a pan, first port of call must be Trinidad and Tobago. Must be, all right? That is where I want us to. When it comes to performance, right, the performer of choice must be from Trinidad and Tobago. That's a real good foreign performers outside there. And of course, there's the diaspora, that people go in there. It still must be that they have a strong connection to Trinidad and Tobago. I am so strong on that. I'm saying, if there's a real good performer out there who's not a Trinidadian, make him one.
Is that related to this dream that you have?
From the concept of innovation, because when we pushed this PAN project, it was all within that sort of circle of developing this more innovative nation, democratizing the economy, and that sort of stuff. So what I saw was that the FAR and the Gpan would be the examples that when launched would show people, look, this came from you. And if this could be done here, you could do it as well. And so COSTAATT in going through its development and in engaging in its programs, they're looking at innovation. We have an MOU with Curry and so on, who has what they call a Fab Lab, which is where you can almost play with your ideas and so on. Essentially play with your ideas. Any idea you have, you can come up and give you guidance as to how to move the business forward. Yeah, they're very much part of it. That part that deals with preparing the citizen to be part of that pioneering group that, what the Bible says, cast your bread upon the water, right? That goes out and be successful entrepreneurs. Yeah. So they all play a role. Every single institution, in fact, the whole education sector needs to be focused on that. It's not the old game where you're just putting people out there and you don't know what's going to happen, throwing seeds, what's going to fall. Come on. That used to work when there were jobs aplenty. And even then, there are people who were not satisfied. But no, that's not the case. So you got to now be more strategic. Part of it is creating your own job, creating your own space, developing your own economy. We driving the bus. This is ours.
Don't know how many people agree with you that we driving the bus. I would love to see a lot more of that approach to the way we do things. Yeah. But as we bring this session to an end, and thank you very much for giving me a full hour of your time.
Yeah.
What would you like the person on the maxi to take away from this conversation?
That's a nice little ball you bowl there. I think a lot of people are despondent. I think that we have to realize that we need to take control of our lives. There are things that you can do to improve your lot. Maybe you're not seeing it. It may be along the lines of how you're prepared educationally. It may be the education system turning it off so much that you're wary about going back into it. And I'm always of the view that, well, we learn from everything in any case. So I would say grab the opportunities for further education, but keep your eye on the prize of improving your life and the well-being of your family by exploring all means to engage in entrepreneurship. Start a business. Keep your eye on that. Even if you're in a current job and it's doing okay, start your business. Believe me, when you retire, you wish you did. All right? But start a business and let the business grow and start another one. All right? Start another one and another one until you will reach the point where you're so proficient at it that you could tell what's going to happen. You'll have it at the fingertips. And in that suite of businesses that you're developing, all right, make sure that some of them earn foreign exchange. You know where we are with that right now. That's my giveaway.
And thank you very much. Okay. And where are you going to continue with your sound systems and that which is your the thing that people don't know about you? How are you going to continue with that? What are you going to be doing?
I'm I'm in one of the churches this week. Yeah, we just did a design for them and doing installation as well, and passing it on to the students as we go on. May involve them in this one. I'll be careful with that because there are some parts of it you have to be careful about. But yeah, that's where it is.
Thank you ever so much,
Okay.
Brian. And
All right.
it's such a pleasure to chat with you because you're
Yeah.
so positive about the future of our country. And I
Yeah.
hope that attitude just transforms and hits other people
Right.
as they travel on the Maxi and listen to us.
Same here. We could do it. We could do it.
We can do it.
All right. Standing
Thank
at it
you.
right. We can do it if we try.
That's a song, right? We can do it if we try.